Based in Klang Valley, Malaysia, InTune Outsourcing offers a complete finance and human resource business process outsourcing BPO solutions tailored to fit the needs of our clients. We have served clients from northern to central and southern region of Malaysia, as well as overseas clients from Indonesia, Singapore, Australia, and United Kingdom. With extensive experiences across online and offline businesses, chain businesses, non-government associations that spread across various industries such as food and beverage, education, IT, jewelry, security, fashion, healthcare, consulting, coaching, training, manufacturing, construction, development, property management, and many more under our belt, we are able to serve a wide range of customers from small, medium, to large businesses alike. Whether you are a startup enterprise or you operate on a much larger scale, our team of experienced professionals have the skills, capabilities, and flexibility to deliver and scale according to your specific needs based on an agreed plan and structure. As your strategic finance and HR partner, InTune assesses where your business is against your business directions and requirements to recommend effective solutions to bridge those gaps for you and your business to achieve your business goals and growth.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. Today we're going to talk about our employee self-service system. In short, it's also known as ESS. Inside the ESS, we have the employee handbook, HR memos, pay slips, EA forms. All these employees can help themselves. They can refer to the employee handbook, any HR memos that has been issued throughout the year. They access their own pay slips, EA forms for the past years, and also they can self-update their personal details, like if they have a newborn or they have moved house, they need to update their address. Any new skills or education acquired, they can also update inside the ESS. Any new achievements or trainings that they have attended, they can also update in this portal. On top of that, they can also view the calendar of all the public holidays that the company observes. Also, they can view who is on leave. Before the MCO, everything was in the office. It was on our server in the office, and we had a lot of difficulties accessing it during MCO. So after moving our payroll system to the cloud, it is now accessible from multiple locations. Any staff can process payroll while working from home. On top of that, we can also allocate multiple user access. Different levels of staff will have different level of use. We can assign simple user access or admin access so that they can do all their payroll work from home. Our e-payroll system can even do payroll recon and multiple report formats. In these multiple report formats, we can set by department, by location, by category, and all these will be especially helpful if you have many outlets that you want to see the report format by the outlet. How is each outlet performing? The e-leave system is a system to apply leave without filling up any forms. Imagine those days when you fill up forms and then you have to give to your supervisor to approve. Right now, it is all on the cloud. So you just apply leave and then your supervisor will get a notification to approve the leave. It is accessible 24/7 and you can track your leave balances on your own. You don't have to ask HR to let you know how many days leave left you have. The e-leave system can generate multiple report formats. It gives you an analysis on the frequent leave types as well, especially when an employee takes a lot of leave, unpaid leave or sick leave, and you want to know how many days has this person taken. So on top of that, employers have the option to set the leave policies, like how many days in advance to apply leave. They can set all sick leave must have an attachment of the MC.
If you're looking for a solution in human resource for your company, InTune is your best choice.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope you have had dinner and then we'll be able to spend the rest of about an hour with us tonight. So my name is Lily Yong. I'm the Managing Director and also co-founder of InTune Outsourcing. InTune Outsourcing is a SME business provider serving the finance and also human resources segment. Yeah, and tonight with us, we have this series of talk with our clients, and then the purpose of having these talks is that we would like to bring to light, to our SME business community here, some information about some of the services that our client offer and how it can actually help them in growing their business. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm a chartered accountant with over 20 years of experience as an accountant, and InTune Outsourcing has been around for the last 16 years. So tonight, we will be featuring our client, Abundent 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗲, a company recognized for their work in artificial intelligence and digital transformation. Let me see. Abundant, through its academy, offers the latest Industrial Revolution 4 courses across 5 major job categories and 21 different job roles. Abundant has been featured on TV, i.e. on Bernama, and also RTM Malaysia, and also featured in the CIO magazine in Singapore. Abundant has won many awards, amongst them top 30 AI startups in Malaysia, Malaysia Technology Excellence Awards, AI in Education, top 100 startups in Malaysia, and Outstanding Leadership Award. And InTune has the privilege to bring on stage the CEO, COO of and founder of Abundant 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗲𝗏, Mr. Tarun Sukani. Please welcome him.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How are you? How is everyone?
Hello.
Hopefully good.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good evening for everybody in the hot weather.
Yes.
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 All right, let's get this started. Tarun, welcome to you. And could you please give the audience some background introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a business and IT professional with over 25 years of industry experience across a variety of verticals. And I've assumed many roles throughout, that time period, starting from lowly programmer, all the way up to C-suite and the board level. So I've also dabbled in entrepreneurship, throughout the years, and Abundant is my latest venture. We've been incorporated since late 2016. Actually, we started off as a fintech, but we pivoted into IR4 and then eventually IR4 training, which is what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years in earnest. I'm also involved in academia, so I'm pursuing a doctorate, as well as I'm also an online TA for a few MIT courses. And finally, I'm a remote IT consultant for 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗲𝗏, which is the world's premier consulting firm for freelancers.
Wow. It's a mouthful of your credentials and all. All right. And then how about Abundant? What does Abundant do? And then what are the customers that you serve? What segments are they in? Maybe you can share a little bit more with us.
Yeah, sure. So Abundant has 2 divisions. We have an L&D division, and we have a product development division. So the L&D division, basically serves our training and consulting mission, which is basically to upskill and reskill companies and individuals in IR4. So that includes, all the 9 pillars, but we tend to focus more attention on big data, AI, ML, deep learning, data science. So that's kind of like our bread and butter. Our product development side focuses on Edutech solutions for the marketplace. In particular, we have a live course training management platform on which our academy runs. So our academy is called Abundant Academy, as you could probably guess. And our academy actually serves our L&D mission, which is, essentially to upskill Malaysians in the technologies that they would need to escape the middle income trap. Yeah, I like the
Mm-hmm.
but and that platform runs. It's a SaaS platform basically.
Mm-hmm. And I have the chance to check out your website and then also look at the platform that you mentioned. So there are multiple training courses available. So can you share a little bit more in depth about your academy? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So basically, our academy has 8 major categories within IT. We essentially cater towards developers. So we're developer centric. So we like to say that we're developer founded and we're developer focused, which means we're developer centric, right? And I think that differentiates us from a lot of the other training providers. But we don't consider ourselves to be in competition with any of the training providers in Malaysia or around the globe. And the reason for that is because we have set up an alternate kind of business model where we actually do content development and, of course, deliver the training. We provide, the trainers themselves, and so that's how we kind of avoid direct competition. At the same time, we have this platform, and this platform can be used by training providers as well as universities or corporate L&Ds to actually host their own trainings. And
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, we offer, rather, I should say, we're going to be offering a pluggable content marketplace. So the idea would be that training providers using our platform would be able to buy our content, and it would instantly appear for them to use. And so this platform now has a lot of AI integrations and ChatGPT and all that fancy stuff going on. But yeah, so essentially, we're focusing on your typical kind of IT worker, knowledge worker,
Mm-hmm.
who would require upskilling or reskilling in the most common technologies that you would see um, as a programmer or developer or architect, within IT.
Mm-hmm. All right, all right. Thank you so much for the in-depth explanation. Okay, before we go too too deep, maybe for the benefits of our audience who are not so IT savvy, perhaps enlighten us a little bit about what is IR4, what is digital transformation. These are very big words. And then please share with us and also share where these applications of this technology can be found. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, R4 is just the next stage in industrial revolution. It kind of started off with the steam engine, going back to England, in London, and that's kind of like how it started off, right? And then, it kind of focused on, basic automation of heavy industry. And then, of course, the latest stage, the previous stage, I should say, IR3, was, there for about 100 years, maybe a little bit less. And that kind of like started off with, Henry Ford and the assembly line, and it kind of went all the way into kind of modern computing, that we saw, all the way up to the 1970s. But then, IR4 really took it to the next level, right? So IR4 essentially is driven by computing, just like IR3 was, but it adds more components like robotics, IoT, AI, and a bunch of other stuff, that are covered in the 9 pillars, big data, that essentially increase productivity and output significantly, right? So it goes well beyond what we had in the past.
Mm-hmm. All right, all right.
And then,
Okay, that's it.
just continuing on with the applications, right? We find applications of IR4 all around us, including many we take for granted, every day. So, for example, our smartphones, you've got an iPhone or whatever, Android, those are essentially IR4 devices, right? So you've been using IR4, or people have been using IR4 for a long time already. because that's what those devices are. If we look at the fast food industry, if you look at like McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or whatever, they've already automated order taking and in some cases even food processing, right? So there's actually robots that can flip burgers and things like that. So that's all IR4, and I think McDonald's has like gone to the extreme, where they try to automate the entire restaurant, where they're testing that out right now in the United States. But that also brings us to what's happening with generative AI and ChatGPT and Midjourney and all this other stuff, which is the most recent kind of application of these technologies, right? And of course, they kind of find their usage everywhere.
All right. Yeah, very interesting when you talk about ChatGPT, because lately it has been news, in the country going around about ChatGPT and how it affects students, their studies, whether it's going to be acceptable, and there were so many different opinions and views about ChatGPT.
Yeah, my opinion is cheat as much as possible, and we even have a course entitled "How to Cheat with ChatGPT," and so essentially I teach people how to cheat. And I think that the way we learn has to change, right? So schools and universities will have to change their curriculum, in order to focus more on problem solving, critical thinking, lateral thinking, rather than rote learning and memorization. So definitely we would have to change, our education system in accordance with these technologies,
Right. Yeah, and then there were also talks about some universities in Singapore has already accepted and approved the use of ChatGPT, while some, it's not ready to adopt it yet. So this is such a big topic now.
Yes. Of course, you have, people on both sides, right? You have both camps. You have detractors and proponents. But, I think that, once the genie is out of the bottle, it's kind of hard to put it back in, right? So I think we've already reached a stage where it's out of the bottle and people are using it for so many different things. That I just don't think it's possible to put it back.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Back to the times when Google just was introduced, and then it took away, it changes the way, we learn and finding information, etc. And now Google, it's an integral part of our lives, whether from the young and even to the working adults like us, and even to, my parents, even my dad uses Google, to search for information. So I think that ChatGPT, will be heading the same direction.
Yeah. So, Google replaced libraries basically, and I think that, ChatGPT and other generative AIs will replace essentially rote learning and memorization, right? And the goal will be essentially to free humans to do more creative thinking, right?
Right. Okay, great. Let's maybe I move on to the next questions about what's the scene like in Malaysia, right? So about the adoption rate of AI and digital transformation in Malaysia, and which are the industries which are the adopting it and all. Could you please comment on that?
Yeah, sure. So adoption of AI is, being driven largely by MNCs. Of course, you would expect that. So, like for example, I just mentioned McDonald's, right? So yeah, you go to McDonald's everywhere, pretty much in KL. You'll see touch everywhere, and then you get your food, right? Or like even like in with 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗃𝗏, right? In the plantation and property industry, we see the usage of drones and IoT and all this other stuff, right? So the examples are actually all around us if we just care to look. And if you look at data science and AI, well, that's being applied in banks and insurance companies. Unfortunately, the uptake of these technologies among SMEs is lagging, right? And that's why kind of like I focused on SMEs, right? So I wanted to focus on SMEs because they were the laggards. But if you look at Malaysia as a whole, right, in terms of AI maturity, maybe ranging from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, Malaysia is overall would probably rank in the low 3 range. So, it wouldn't be horrible, but it wouldn't be great either. It kind of be like in between, right?
Neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there, right? Exactly. So it wouldn't be anything to write home about. Let's just say that, right? And the reason for that is very simple, because SMEs constitute, depending on who you ask, anywhere from 80 to 90% of the entire workforce, right?
Yes.
And because of that, because of that lack of adoption, they're actually driving down that index.
Yep. All right. Okay, I get you. And then I hear you that the adoption rate is probably 3 or on the lower side. And then what do you reckon are the challenges or obstacles that is in the way of adoption of AI, and especially in the SME scene? And also, is there any hope for Malaysia?
Okay, so I'll do my best to answer this, but yeah. So as alluded to above, right, we talked about the host of challenges and obstacles already. If you look at the SMEs and things like that. So essentially, adoption, of AI and digital transformation in general cuts across a few dimensions. So we have to look at Malaysia from the perspective of these 3 dimensions, right? So the first dimension is political. So all of the government and politicians, they pay lip service to these digital trends, right? I've attended a lot of these conferences, primarily to enjoy the food. I mean, primarily to enjoy the conversation.
Okay.
The food. And then, but really it's just a meet and greet kind of thing. And you have a guest speaker, some famous guy, he gets his payment and runs away, and then nothing else happens. Right. So in other words, it's not really hitting the ground level, right. To benefit, the majority of the rakyat. Right. So for example, one thing that could be done on a political level could just be, what the United States has done, which is essentially to say that we're going to move, to a renewable economy, away from a fossil fuel economy. We'll still sell, oil and gas, but we'll sell it to other countries that are dependent on it still, like India and whatever. But, we won't use it internally, right? So we will be completely energy independent on renewables. And that could drive, a lot of job creation and the use of digital transformation and AI in general, right? The other dimension is socioeconomic. So salaries in Malaysia have been stagnant for donkey years, right? At least like 30 years.
Totally
decades.
agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I've asked people, and the starting salary for entry level workers 30 years ago was about 3,000, and that's exactly the amount now. Yes. So nothing, but the purchasing power back then was much more, right? So if we look at the conversion rate and inflation rate back then, it was like 2.5 ringgit to the US dollar with low inflation. And now we have like 4.7 sometimes. Now it's, I think, 4.5, to the US dollar, and inflation is high, right? So in other words, the ringgit is much weaker, and that erodes purchasing power, which means that if you're an entry level worker, and you're starting off at 3,000, that's like making 1,500 30 years ago, because of the erosion of the purchasing power. So this doesn't bode too well for workers, right? And so because of that, there's a brain drain, right? So we see a lot of talented people leaving the country, going to Singapore or Australia or the UK. Let's say UK, and I always try to get that in somewhere. But yeah, so that's what we see happening, right? And it's really sad, to see that. But that's strictly because of what's happening socioeconomically, right?
All right.
And finally, the last to mention is educational. The education system in Malaysia is largely a holdover from the colonial era, right? And it lacks the flexibility and credibility to produce enough qualified candidates for many of the high-paying jobs. So actually, there are a lot of high-paying jobs in Malaysia. It's just that very few people are qualified to get them, right? So a lot of these positions just remain empty, and they can't be filled. So this prevents essentially employers from hiring locals, and the government is insisting on hiring, locals, right? Even if they're unqualified. So that presents a huge dilemma. So there's a clash of interests here as well, because the government, of course, wants employers to hire locals at all costs to boost, the politicians' voting base, but employers just want to hire the right people, right, to get the work done. So that, I think there's a clash there, right? So is there hope?
Yeah, that's the second part of my question. Is there hope?
Yeah. So my answer is no. No hope. Yes. So no. But I think the best course of action, if you're an employer, right, maybe within the high, technology sector, right, I think the best course of action is not to fully expose yourself as a business to the local economy. So, go out, branch out, Singapore, Indonesia, go to growth markets, that actually have, growth prospects. And I think, that would be a better idea. And then the other thing is then that way, you can also charge in US dollars or euro or whatever, so that you're not eroded by the local purchasing power.
Yeah, I think you have that's really a really good point, especially the part that you mentioned about salary hasn't increased that much, because I remember 20 over years ago when I first entered the workforce in the finance market, being a really entry level accountant, the starting salary then was approximately 1,800. 20 over years down the road now, and having an accounting firm or accounting practice myself, the entry level salary is only about less than 3,000. And totally, yes, things are so much more expensive now. We can buy so much lesser with the same amount of money. So I think that was a very a point that I can relate to what you have shared. And also on the education, because both my kids are in government schools, in high schools, and then there is so much inflexibility in the entire system that promotes, creative thinking and problem solving, rather than there is a lot of things to memorize. So these are the common complaints that I hear from my children. So very spot on, very relatable. Thank you so much. And then, yeah, but the part about no hope, my heart just fell. Yeah.
But I had to say that so that I'm controversial, and so that more people will, join in the conversation.
Okay. That's the Tarun that I know.
But sometimes bad bad publicity is always good publicity.
Oh yes, I do agree with you.
So I want to make it controversial so that, but I wouldn't be here if Malaysia was not a good country.
Okay. Thank you.
Right?
There is some
I
hope.
wouldn't be here if Malaysia was not a good country. So what makes Malaysia good, right, are all the other things, right? Which is the culture, the intermixing. I find the people to be more gracious, and kind here, not as kiasu as the Singaporeans. So essentially, yeah. I mean, I would say that I feel like I belong, right? There's a sense of belonging here that a lot of Asians from different backgrounds feel when they come to Malaysia, because the values are all the same, right? So it's all the family-oriented, education-oriented stuff. Not too money grubbing, just making sure you have enough money for living expenses and trips and things like that. That's very different than Singapore's outlook on money. So that kind of jives, with a lot of people, including, of course, me. So I think that's what makes Malaysia good. Now, having said that, these other things that we're talking about can be fixed, right? They can actually be fixed. And, it just requires the right policy in place, right, to escape the middle income trap. And I kind of ask myself sometimes, if Malaysia were to enter out or exit out of the middle income trap and enter into a high value economy, is that a good thing? I don't know if that's such a good thing, because of course Malaysians will start behaving like Singaporeans, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Okay. Right.
We want differentiation, right? We want Malaysia to be what it is, and not end up, behaving exactly like Singapore, right? So, I do think that, some things are achievable, but then we have to ask ourselves, to what extent, do we want to achieve it, right? Yes, the education system should be changed, but, should there be a drastic change? Probably not, right?
All right. Thank you. We got it over a little more sensitive. We did cross countries comparison. All right. Okay. Now we come
also
back
to piss off Singapore.
Yeah.
So if there's any Singaporeans on the call, you can get pissed off.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. So now we are going to talk about your Abundent Academy platform. Perhaps for you to share a case study. We would like to know how, as Abundant, you have what you have done for your client, what were the challenges that they were facing, and what you have created for them. Let's look at case studies that you have prepared. Okay. All right. As the words are a little small, I think Tarun, please bring us through the case study.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention clients here, so I'll leave the client name out. But it's essentially
sure.
it's a money services business. It's within the financial services sector, right? And what we eventually ended up doing was money services as a service. So that's essentially, the idea was to convert all these money services into an API. And so that way, everybody, internally within the company can use it, but also it can be opened up to developers outside the company, to build services on top of that, right? So that was essentially it. There were other things, of course, that we did related to AI and machine learning, which was essentially in risk assessment and fraud detection, right? So one of the solutions that we developed was called 𝗟𝗶𝘃𝗧, SARI, Suspicious
Wow.
Activity Report Identification. And the logo was, of course, a woman in a sari.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So for those of you who are familiar, with the industry, you all know about, AML and, KYC and all that stuff, and anti-terrorism stuff and all that stuff. So for those of you who are familiar with that industry, what is a suspicious activity report, and so our goal was essentially to automate as much of that as possible, right? We also did automations in terms of price calculation, right? So what should be the prices of our products and services, right? So so essentially, a money services business sells currency, right? So how do you price that currency, right, in such a way that you're making a profit, but you're not losing out to the competition, right? So there has to be a balance, among three different things: the spot pricing, competitor pricing, and your own inventory costs, in order to come up with the pricing that would make you profitable, but still, allow you to sell enough versus your competition, right? So all of these kind of services were kind of like bundled within the API, and so that's the idea, is that we wanted to create an API for the entire business, right? And I should add that I was a CTO for that business. I should probably point that. So yeah, I did come back later as Abundant to do some services for them as well. But a lot of this stuff was done while I was a CTO. Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, and then in terms of what was the results that they have achieved, and then as a result of this entire exercise, the metrics, have you shared that as well?
Yeah, so I can share some of that.
Yeah.
Of course, I haven't memorized, the metrics. Don't do that. Maybe if I went to a Malaysian government school, I'd memorize.
Oh,
That's
a
my
Chinese
jab.
school, especially the
Yeah, so
Chinese
that's my
school,
jab.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to memorize it. But we did streamline a bunch of stuff, right? And so the client basically had a cost savings of about 55%, right?
Wow.
Of in terms of savings in IT and process efficiency. And then we improved efficiency overall, with an increase in sales turnover about 60% within the first 3 months. So now the client is in a fancy office in KL Central. I'm assuming that things went well. So yeah, so overall, it was a positive result, and I think automation in general, definitely helps in terms of operational efficiency, in terms of reduction of cost, and in this case also increase in sales turnover, right? Because of course we were also doing e-commerce alongside this API.
Wow, that's amazing, because a 55% savings in cost with a 60% increase in sales, that is a huge result to be achieved in 3 months. So I'm especially sensitive to figures, and then I picked this up from the conversation earlier. Yeah, so yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so yeah, for our audience, is there any questions from the audience for Tarun here? And his area of expertise, AI, digital adoption in their business, and all. Let's see. Okay, all right. Let me see. Okay, all right. I think there is no questions so far from the audience. Okay, I think there are a lot of information being shared and so on. So maybe for now, let's do the wrap up. If there's no questions from the floor, I think overall it has been very informative, getting to know a lot more in depth about Abundant, the academy, the platform, and the entire digital transformation scene in Malaysia, and also adoption of AI. Yeah. So, Tarun, do you have any closing statements for our audience and in these regards?
Yeah, so I would encourage everyone to, take a look at our academy if you haven't already. Maybe there's things of interest to you, especially within the generative AI space, all the ChatGPT and Midjourney and all this other stuff that's going on. So definitely, upskilling and reskilling, and allowing yourself, essentially to be more productive, to be more efficient. That's always a good thing, and of course, you're welcome to contact us directly from the website, from the academy, what's up or whatever. So yeah.
All right, thank you. And then lastly, Abundant has been our client, InTune's client for the last 2 years. So as your outsourced finance department, taking care of your finance and the books of Abundant. So Tarun, would you mind sharing what is your experience working with InTune and the team serving you?
So overall, my experience has been good. And, I think that, a very important point I wanted to make here is that it's not a good idea to go somewhere else and get a cheaper price thinking that you'll get better service. So, I kind of learned my lesson the hard way. But yeah, so stick with something that, provides consistency and professionalism, at all times, which I think is what InTune kind of provided to me. The other thing is that when I was somewhere else, they didn't understand my sense of humor. So Lily does understand my sense of humor. So that's always good. Yes. And
Yeah.
yes, because I'm silly about 80% of the time and I'm serious about 20%. So I think that personal connection is also very important.
Thank you so much. I think, yes, I forgot to mention that Tarun or Abundant is a returning client, and personally, I enjoyed working with him. Like he said, he likes to have fun. For me, I like to have fun too. Yeah, life is too short to be too serious all the time. Yeah, that's my life philosophy. Yeah. All right. Oh, we have a question from the floor. From Seok Ting. Can SME afford this AI technology? Tarun, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you how much I paid for my, technology and upgrading, right? The answer is 0. Yeah. So basically, I'm not paying any software fees because we did everything open source. The only time I spent money recently was on a ChatGPT subscription and Midjourney subscription. But now there's open source versions coming out of these tools, and I'll probably end up switching over to those if they're pretty good, right? In which case my cost would go back down to 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people have a misconception about technology, that technology will always be expensive. But that's not the case at all if you consider other options, right? So in particular, free and open source options, in many cases, can be just as good as the commercial options, but completely free to use. And so that's what I did. Yeah. And so if you look at our platform and you look at Abundant Academy, that's completely all free technology. I didn't pay a dime for anything, or I should say cent, right? It's the wrong country. So yeah, I didn't pay a cent for any of that, right? So completely free, So I think it's very important that SMEs open themselves up to, upgrading and upskilling and reskilling in the right tools that would be free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they should inquire how they can do things for essentially 0 cost.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you so much. Okay, what you have shared has just, we have another question coming up from Vikas. what role will training play in upgrading income level in Malaysia?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question, because the problem is that because Malaysia is stuck in a middle income trap, right? A lot of people who are upskilling and reskilling may not get, the salary that they want. And so that leads to brain drain. So even if the, position is now available to you because you've upskilled, reskilled, the salary may not be what you want. But, that's where, if you're open to migration and you want to focus on, your salary, you can do that, right? You can migrate out. So one thing is that upskilling and reskilling can make you now qualified, right, for a higher salary and higher position, not necessarily within Malaysia, right? But everything depends on you, right? So if you have more of an entrepreneurial drive and you feel that you can get your own clients, then sky's the limit. The more you upskill and reskill, the more money you can make, because you're not tied to an employer. You can go out and get business on your own. And then, essentially there is no limit, right? All just depends on how much you want to work, right? So training is important if you have a plan in mind, right? So if for example, that you want to, be a solopreneur, or if you want to leave the country for a period of time to maximize your income, and then maybe come back and do a consulting, gig at some of the big MNCs, all of those things are available to you, but they're only available to you if you properly upskill and reskill, right?
Right. Thank you so much. I think the Ting's question actually opened up my perspective about, SME can afford AI technology. Thank you so much. I think the right person that SME should speak to, if you are looking to digital transformation or adopting AI in your business, will be reaching out to Tarun, and also his company Abundent. And if you're looking for finance and HR outsourcing, you reach out to myself, Lily, at InTune. And I would like to take this opportunity. I think there is no more question from the floor that I see. Thank you, Tarun. Thank you for your time and sharing your expertise, your knowledge with our audience here. And right after this, we will showcase a video of Abundant, and then see you another time. Thank you so much, audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.